I heard the gunshot from Margaret's backyard at exactly 9:47 a.m. When I climbed the fence, I saw my daughter's orange cat lying motionless in a pool of blood. Margaret stood over him with a smoking gun, smiling. "Problem solved," she said. 3 minutes later, the military arrived. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. My name is Sarah Martinez, and I never thought I'd be writing about the day someone murdered my 8-year-old daughter's cat. But here I am, 3 years later, still shaking with anger every time I think about Margaret Thompson and what she did to my family. I'm a single mother fighting stage 4 breast cancer. My daughter Emma is my whole world, my reason for fighting through every chemotherapy session, every sleepless night, every moment when I wanted to give up. Emma has watched me lose my hair, my strength, and sometimes my hope. But through it all, she's been my little warrior. 3 months ago, Emma found a small orange tabby cat hiding under our porch during a thunderstorm. The poor thing was soaked, terrified, and looked like it hadn't eaten in weeks. Despite my condition, I couldn't say no to Emma's pleading eyes when she begged to keep him. "Please, Mommy," she cried, holding the shivering cat against her chest. "He needs us. Just like you need me." We named him Rusty, and he became Emma's constant companion. He slept on her bed, followed her around the house, and purred on her lap when she cried about Mommy being sick. That cat was more than a pet. He was Emma's emotional support during the darkest time of our lives. But Margaret Thompson, our neighborhood's HOA president, had other plans. It started on a Tuesday morning when I was too weak to get out of bed. The chemo from the previous day had hit me harder than usual, and Emma was getting ready for school by herself. She's always been mature for her age, but cancer forces children to grow up faster than they should. I heard loud, aggressive banging on my front door. I wrapped my robe around my thin frame and shuffled to answer it. Standing there was Margaret Thompson, with her perfectly styled gray hair, expensive clothes, and a clipboard clutched in her manicured hands like a weapon. "Mrs. Martinez," she said with a fake smile that didn't reach her cold blue eyes, "I'm here about your cat problem." "Cat problem?" I asked, confused and still groggy from medication. "The stray cat your daughter has been harboring. It's against HOA regulations to keep unregistered outdoor cats. They're destroying property values and creating health hazards." I leaned against the doorframe trying to steady myself. "Margaret, Rusty isn't a stray anymore. He's our family pet, and he's mostly an indoor cat." Her expression hardened like concrete. "That's irrelevant. The HOA bylaws clearly state that all pets must be registered and approved by the board before acquisition. You never submitted the proper paperwork." "I'm sorry, I didn't know about the paperwork. I've been dealing with..." I gestured weakly at my bald head and thin frame. "Your personal problems don't excuse you from following community rules," she said coldly. "You have 48 hours to remove the cat from the premises permanently, or I'll take matters into my own hands." Something in her tone made my blood run cold. "What do you mean, take matters into your own hands?" "I mean I'll solve the problem myself. Permanently." The way she said permanently sent chills down my spine. "Margaret, please. My daughter is going through a really hard time. That cat is her only comfort when I'm at the hospital. Rules are rules, Mrs. Martinez. Your daughter will have to find comfort elsewhere." She turned and walked away, her heels clicking like gunshots on the pavement. I watched her go, feeling a mixture of anger and terror. There was something in her eyes that wasn't just about HOA rules. It was personal. It was cruel. And it was dangerous. That evening, I tried to explain the situation to Emma as gently as possible. Her reaction broke my heart. "No, Mommy. They can't take Rusty away," she sobbed. "He's not just a cat, he's my best friend. Who will keep me company when you're getting your medicine?" I held her small, shaking body against mine. "I'll try to fix this, sweetheart. Maybe I can talk to the other neighbors, get them to help us." But Margaret Thompson wasn't interested in compromise. Over the next week, she made our lives a living hell. She walked by our house multiple times a day, taking pictures of Rusty whenever he was outside. She sent daily violation notices and even had the nerve to report us to the city for unsanitary pet conditions, because Rusty had knocked over a flower pot while playing. I tried everything to comply with her demands. I filled out the pet registration forms, paid the ridiculous $300 fee, and even got a letter from my oncologist explaining how having a therapy pet was crucial for Emma's mental health during my treatment. Margaret rejected everything. "The board has decided," she told me during one of her unannounced visits. "The cat is a menace to this community. It ends now." "What harm is he causing?" I asked, my voice shaking. He's just a cat who brings joy to a sick child. He's been seen in other people's yards, and Mrs. Peterson complained about paw prints on her car. This is a respectable neighborhood, not a zoo for strays. He's not a stray. He's our pet. Not according to HOA records. According to our bylaws, he's an unregistered animal, which makes him a stray. And we have protocols for dealing with strays. The way she said protocols made my stomach turn. What kind of protocols? Effective ones. She smiled, and it was the coldest smile I'd ever seen. The stress was killing me, literally. My oncologist noticed my increased anxiety during my next appointment and had to adjust my pain medication. Emma started having nightmares about people taking Rusty away, and her grades began to slip. 1 week later, I received a certified letter from the HOA. It was a final notice, giving us 24 hours to permanently remove the animal from the premises, or face immediate enforcement action. The letter was signed by Margaret Thompson, and she'd added a handwritten note at the bottom. Some lessons are learned the hard way. Your daughter will thank me later for teaching her about rules and consequences. That night, I made a decision that haunts me to this day. I called my brother Mike, who lived 2 hours away, and asked if he could temporarily take Rusty until I could find a new place to live. Emma was inconsolable when I told her. You promised you'd protect him, she screamed through tears. You lied to me. Emma, this is just temporary. Uncle Mike will take good care of Rusty, and as soon as we can move, we'll get him back. But deep down, I knew I was too sick to move, too broke to fight the HOA legally, and too weak to protect my daughter from this heartbreak. The next morning, Mike came to pick up Rusty. Emma refused to come out of her room to say goodbye. I watched through the window as my brother gently placed the confused cat in his carrier, and I felt like I was failing my daughter in the worst possible way. That afternoon, Margaret Thompson appeared at my door with a satisfied smile. I trust the situation has been resolved? Yes, I said quietly. Good. Let this be a lesson about following community guidelines. She paused, then added, though I should mention, if that cat ever returns to this neighborhood, I'll handle it myself. Permanently. What does that mean? It means some problems require permanent solutions. After she left, I called Mike to check on Rusty. How's he settling in? That's the weird thing, Sarah. The cat you gave me is an orange. He's gray with white patches. Are you sure you gave me the right cat? My blood turned to ice. Mike, Rusty is orange. Bright orange. Well, this cat definitely isn't orange. Maybe you grabbed the wrong carrier in all the emotion? I hung up and ran outside to check our garage where we'd kept the cat carrier. It was still there, but there was something else. Orange fur stuck to the wire mesh. Someone had switched the cats. Someone had taken Rusty and given Mike a different cat entirely. And I knew exactly who that someone was. I called Margaret immediately. Where is he? I don't know what you're talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You took Rusty and replaced him with a different cat. Where is my daughter's cat? I have no idea what you're accusing me of, but I don't appreciate your tone. Margaret, if you've hurt that cat. Mrs. Martinez, I suggest you be very careful about making accusations you can't prove. Slander is a serious legal matter. She hung up, but I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. She had Rusty and she wanted me to know it. I called the police, but they weren't helpful. Ma'am, you said your brother has the cat. If it's the wrong cat, that sounds like a mix-up, not a crime. Someone deliberately switched the cats. Do you have any proof of this alleged cat switching? I didn't. Just a mother's intuition and orange fur in a carrier. For the next 3 days I was sick with worry. Emma kept asking about Rusty and I kept lying, telling her he was fine with Uncle Mike. Meanwhile, I drove around the neighborhood looking for any sign of him. Then, on Thursday morning, I found him. I was taking out the trash when I heard a sound that made my blood freeze, a single gunshot from the direction of Margaret's backyard. I ran toward the sound, my heart pounding. As I got closer to Margaret's fence, I could hear her voice talking to someone on the phone. Yes, the problem has been solved permanently. No, there won't be any more issues with stray cats in this neighborhood. I can guarantee it. I climbed onto a lawn chair to see over her fence, and what I saw will haunt me forever. Margaret Thompson was standing in her backyard holding a small pistol. At her feet, lying motionless on the grass, was Rusty. His beautiful orange fur was stained with blood, and his little body was completely still. She had shot him. She had murdered my daughter's cat in cold blood. I must have made a noise because she looked up and saw me. Instead of looking guilty or ashamed, she smiled. Oh, hello, Sarah. I was just taking care of a pest problem. You shot him, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I eliminated a neighborhood nuisance. That animal was trespassing on my property. He was my daughter's cat. You murdered my daughter's cat. I defended my property against a stray animal. It's perfectly legal under Texas law. I started to climb over the fence, but she raised the gun toward me. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I'm still feeling threatened by aggressive animals. I backed away, shaking with rage and grief. You're insane. I'm practical. Your daughter will get over it. Children are resilient. I ran home and called 911, sobbing. Someone just shot my daughter's cat. I watched them do it. Ma'am, please calm down. Are you saying someone shot your cat? Yes. My neighbor shot him. I watched her do it. Was the cat on her property? Yes, but... Ma'am, in Texas, property owners have the right to defend their property from aggressive animals. If the cat was on her property, she may have been within her rights. He wasn't aggressive. He was just a house cat. I'll send an officer to take a report, but I should let you know that these cases are difficult to prosecute. When the officer arrived, Margaret had already cleaned up the scene. She told him that a vicious stray cat had been threatening her small dog, and she'd been forced to defend her pet. The animal was clearly feral, she told the officer. It was hissing and acting aggressively. I feared for my safety and my dog's safety. The officer looked at me sympathetically but explained that without witnesses or evidence of the cat being a pet rather than a stray, there wasn't much they could do. But I saw her. She murdered my daughter's cat. Ma'am, if the cat was on her property and she felt threatened, she had the right to defend herself. Margaret smiled sweetly. I'm sorry for your loss, but I had to protect my family. After the officer left, I sat in my kitchen and cried. How was I going to tell Emma that her beloved cat was dead? How was I going to explain that someone had murdered him just to hurt us? Emma came home from school excited to video chat with Rusty at Uncle Mike's house. I had to tell her the truth. Sweetheart, I need to tell you something about Rusty. Is he okay? Is he happy at Uncle Mike's? Baby, Rusty isn't at Uncle Mike's. Someone took him before Uncle Mike could pick him up. What do you mean someone took him? I knelt down to her level, trying to find words that wouldn't destroy her completely. The lady from the HOA, Mrs. Thompson, she took Rusty. And she hurt him very badly. Is he okay? Can we take him to the vet? No, sweetheart. Rusty is gone. He's dead. Emma's face went through a series of emotions, confusion, disbelief, and then devastating grief. Dead? But why? What did he do wrong? He didn't do anything wrong, baby. Some people are just very mean. But why would someone hurt Rusty? He was just a cat. He never hurt anyone. I held her while she sobbed, feeling like my heart was being ripped from my chest. I don't know, sweetheart. I don't understand how someone could be so cruel. Did Mrs. Thompson really kill him? I had to be honest with her. Yes, she did. Why isn't she in jail? Because sometimes bad people don't get punished right away. But I promise you we're going to make sure she pays for what she did. That night, Emma cried herself to sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling more helpless than I'd ever felt in my life. My daughter was heartbroken, I was dying of cancer, and a psychopath was walking free after murdering an innocent animal. But then I remembered something. My ex-husband David might have been a terrible husband, but he was a career military officer with connections throughout the armed forces. We'd divorced amicably and he'd been trying to make up for his absence during my illness. I looked at the clock. It was 2 a.m. but I didn't care. I called him. David, I need your help. Sarah? What's wrong? Are you okay? Someone murdered Emma's cat. Shot him in cold blood. And the police won't do anything about it. What? Who would do something like that? I told him everything. The HOA harassment, the cat switching, the cold-blooded murder, and Emma's devastating grief. This woman shot a child's pet to get back at you for HOA violations? That's exactly what she did. And the cops won't help? They say she had the right to defend her property. David was quiet for a long moment. I'm calling in some favors. Don't do anything until I get there. David, I can't ask you to. Emma is my daughter too. Someone hurt her to hurt you, and that's not happening on my watch. David arrived the next morning with 3 other men in civilian clothes. They looked like they could handle themselves in any situation. Sarah, meet Colonel James Rodriguez, Master Sergeant Mike Chin, and Sergeant First Class Tony Williams. They're here to help. I shook their hands, overwhelmed by the sudden support. Gentlemen, I appreciate you coming, but I'm not sure what you can do that the police can't. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Ma'am, we specialize in situations where the normal system has failed. What this woman did wasn't just animal cruelty, it was psychological warfare against a military family. Military family? David's our brother. That makes Emma our niece. And nobody hurts our family. What's the plan? Chin spoke up. We're going to gather evidence, document everything, and build a case that the district attorney can't ignore. Then we're going to make sure this woman faces consequences for what she did. What kind of consequences? The kind that fit the crime, Williams said quietly. They spent the next hour interviewing me, taking notes and recording everything. They were thorough, professional, and slightly intimidating in their efficiency. First, we need to confirm what happened, Rodriguez said. We're going to set up surveillance on Thompson's property and see if we can catch her disposing of evidence. Evidence? The gun, the cat's body, anything that proves what she did. The police already said there's no evidence. The police looked for evidence that would hold up in civilian court, Chin explained. We're looking for the truth regardless of what court it ends up in. That afternoon they set up their operation. They had equipment I'd never seen before, long-range cameras, listening devices, and motion sensors. They explained they were going to monitor Margaret's property 24/7 until they found what they needed. This seems like overkill for a dead cat, I said. With respect, ma'am, this isn't about a dead cat, Rodriguez replied. This is about a woman who targeted a military family, tortured a child psychologically, and committed premeditated murder to satisfy her need for control. In our book, that makes her a threat to national security. National security? Military families are constantly deployed, leaving spouses and children vulnerable. If we let people like Thompson terrorize our families without consequences, it affects military readiness and morale. I hadn't thought about it that way, but they were right. Margaret hadn't just killed a cat, she'd attacked a military family when they were at their most vulnerable. The surveillance operation lasted 72 hours. On the second day they got what they were looking for. Sarah, you need to see this. David called me over to their monitoring station. On the screen I could see Margaret in her backyard, digging in her garden. She was unearthing something wrapped in plastic. Is that? That's your cat, Rodriguez said grimly. She buried him in her backyard after shooting him. I watched in horror as Margaret pulled Rusty's body from the ground, unwrapped it and examined it. Then she did something that made my blood run cold. She took photos of his body with her phone. Why is she taking pictures? Trophy photos, Chin said with disgust. She's documenting her kill like a hunter. That's sick. It's also evidence of premeditation and intent. She's not just a property owner who defended herself. She's a predator who planned and executed a murder for psychological gratification. After taking photos, Margaret rewrapped Rusty's body and reburied it. But she made one crucial mistake. She didn't notice the small tracking device that Williams had placed on her property. We know exactly where she buried him, Williams said. And we have video of her digging him up, photographing him, and reburying him. That's not the behavior of someone who acted in self-defense. Now what? Now we go get him, Rodriguez said. And we make sure Thompson pays for what she did. That evening, while Margaret was at her weekly HOA meeting, the team moved in. They carefully excavated Rusty's body, documented everything and collected evidence. They also found something else, a notebook in Margaret's garage detailing her plans to eliminate the cat problem permanently. Listen to this, Chin said, reading from the notebook. Day 12. Cat still present despite warnings. Martinez woman showing no signs of compliance. May need to escalate to final solution. Final solution? I felt sick. It gets worse. Day 15. Acquired replacement cat from shelter. Plan to switch animals during transport, eliminate original cat, and let family think their pet is safe elsewhere. She planned the whole thing. Day 18. Executed switch successfully. Original cat secured in garage. Family believes cat is safe with relative. Ready to implement permanent solution. Rodriguez looked up from the notebook. Sarah, this woman didn't just kill your cat impulsively. She planned this for weeks. She studied your family's routines, acquired a replacement cat, and orchestrated the entire operation. That's insane. It's also premeditated murder, conspiracy, and psychological torture. And now we have the evidence to prove it. The next morning, Rodriguez and Chin paid Margaret a visit. I wanted to be there, but they insisted I stay home with Emma. This is going to get ugly, David warned me. She's going to realize her life is about to change forever. They were right. An hour later, Margaret appeared at my door in a fury. How dare you, she screamed. How dare you send military thugs to harass an innocent woman? Innocent. I laughed bitterly. You murdered my daughter's cat. I defended my property. That's my right. You planned it for weeks. You wrote it all down in your little notebook. Her face went pale. What notebook? The one where you detailed your final solution for the cat problem. You broke into my property. That's illegal. So is premeditated murder. It was just a cat. It was my daughter's best friend. It was an innocent animal that you killed to hurt a child. Margaret's composure cracked. You think you're so special because you're sick? You think your problems excuse you from following rules? I think you're a psychopath who gets off on causing pain to others. I maintain order in this community. People like you with your problems and your drama, you ruin everything. People like me? Sick people. Broken families. You bring down property values and create problems for everyone else. I stared at her, finally understanding the depth of her cruelty. You killed Rusty because you hate me for having cancer. I killed a stray cat because it was trespassing on my property. You killed him because you wanted to hurt my daughter. Because you wanted to punish me for being sick. I wanted to teach you a lesson about following rules. By murdering an innocent animal. By solving a problem that you were too selfish to solve yourself. At that moment, Rodriguez appeared behind her. Mrs. Thompson, you're under arrest for animal cruelty, conspiracy, and stalking. You can't arrest me. You're not even real police. You're right. But they are. He gestured to the street where 2 FBI agents were walking toward us. Margaret's face went white. FBI? For a cat. For a federal crime. Animal cruelty is a federal offense under the PACT Act. What you did constitutes felony animal abuse. It was just a cat. It was premeditated murder of a family pet, planned and executed over several weeks, with the intent to cause psychological harm to a child. The FBI agents approached us. Margaret Thompson, you're under arrest for violation of the PACT Act, conspiracy, stalking, and harassment. As they handcuffed her, Margaret looked at me with pure hatred. This isn't over. You'll pay for this. No, Margaret. You'll pay for this. You'll pay for what you did to my daughter. The trial was a media sensation. The story of the HOA president who murdered a cancer patient's cat went viral, sparking nationwide outrage about HOA overreach and animal cruelty. Margaret's defense attorney tried to paint her as a dedicated community volunteer who had made a mistake. But the evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution presented Margaret's notebook, showing her weeks of planning. They showed the surveillance video of her digging up Rusty's body and taking trophy photos. They presented testimony from neighbors about her escalating harassment of our family. But the most damaging evidence came from Margaret herself. During cross-examination, she couldn't contain her arrogance. Mrs. Thompson, do you regret shooting the cat? I regret that people have blown this out of proportion. It was just a cat. Just a cat? Yes. People act like I committed some terrible crime, but it was just an animal. An animal that belonged to an 8-year-old girl. Children get over things quickly. She would have forgotten about it. You don't think killing a child's pet is cruel? I think people who don't follow rules need to learn consequences. So you killed the cat to teach the family a lesson? I solved a problem that was disrupting the community. By murdering an innocent animal? By eliminating a nuisance. The jury was horrified. Several jurors were visibly upset by her callousness. When it was time for victim impact statements, Emma insisted on speaking. She was 9 years old, still small and scared, but she was determined to speak for Rusty. My name is Emma Martinez and Mrs. Thompson killed my cat Rusty. Rusty was my best friend. He slept with me when I was scared about my mommy being sick. He purred when I cried. He never hurt anyone. Mrs. Thompson didn't just kill my cat. She made me afraid of everyone. She made me think that grown-ups can hurt you just because they don't like you. She made me learn that sometimes bad people don't get punished. But today I learned something else. I learned that good people will fight for you when bad people hurt you. I learned that my daddy and his friends won't let anyone hurt our family. And I learned that Rusty's death meant something because now other cats will be safe. There wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Even the judge was wiping away tears. The jury deliberated for 30 minutes. They found Margaret guilty on all counts. At sentencing, Margaret showed no remorse. She stood before the judge and complained about being persecuted for maintaining community standards. Your Honor, I'm the victim here. I was just trying to keep our neighborhood safe and clean. These people have destroyed my reputation and my life over a stray cat. The judge looked at her with disgust. Mrs. Thompson, You planned and executed the murder of a child's pet over several weeks. You documented your intent to cause psychological harm to a family already dealing with a cancer diagnosis. You showed no mercy to an innocent animal, and you've shown no remorse for your actions. It was just a cat. It was a family member. It was a source of comfort to a child during the most difficult time of her life. And you killed it to satisfy your need for control and dominance. The judge sentenced Margaret to 5 years in federal prison, 10 years of probation, and a lifetime ban from serving in any HOA capacity. She was also ordered to pay $100,000 in restitution for Emma's therapy and our legal costs. As they led her away, Margaret looked back at us with pure hatred. "This isn't over," she mouthed. But it was over. Her reign of terror was finished. 6 months later, my cancer went into remission. My oncologist said she'd never seen such a dramatic improvement in a patient with my diagnosis. I knew it wasn't just the medical treatment, it was the power of fighting for justice and seeing it served. Emma and I moved to a new neighborhood, one without an HOA. Our new neighbors welcomed us with open arms. When we mentioned we were thinking about getting new cats, 3 different families offered to help us find them. We adopted 2 kittens from the local shelter, siblings named Hope and Justice. Emma said she wanted 2 cats so they would never be alone like Rusty had been. The best part of our new life was the impact our story had on others. We received hundreds of letters from families who had been terrorized by HOA bullies, and many of them found the courage to fight back because of what we'd done. "Mommy," Emma said one evening as we watched Hope and Justice play in our new backyard, "do you think Rusty knows that he helped other animals?" "I think he does, sweetheart. I think he knows that his story made people want to protect other pets." "Good. I want him to know that he was a hero." He was Emma. He was. Margaret Thompson served 3 years in federal prison before being released on parole. She moved to another state, but her story followed her. She became a symbol of HOA tyranny and animal cruelty, and her name became synonymous with petty evil. Emma, now 12, has become an advocate for animal rights and HOA reform. She started a foundation called Rusty's Law that helps families fight back against HOA bullies and provides legal support for animal cruelty cases. David stayed in our lives, becoming the father Emma had always needed. He said that watching us fight for justice had reminded him what was truly important in life. The military team that helped us, Rodriguez, Chin, and Williams, became honorary uncles to Emma. They taught her that good people will always stand up to bullies, no matter how powerful they seem. Today, as I write this story, I'm cancer-free and stronger than I've ever been. Emma is a confident, compassionate young woman who stands up for others and never backs down from injustice. Our cats, Hope and Justice, are spoiled rotten and loved deeply. They sleep on Emma's bed, play in our yard, and have never known a moment of fear or cruelty. Sometimes Emma still talks about Rusty, but now the memories make her smile instead of cry. She says he taught her that even when bad things happen, good people will fight for what's right. The house where we used to live is now occupied by a family with 3 children and 4 cats. The new HOA president is a retired veterinarian who believes in protecting animals rather than persecuting them. Margaret's reign of terror is over, but the lessons she taught us will last forever. Margaret Thompson thought she was teaching us about following rules. Instead, she taught the world about the power of standing up to bullies and never giving up on justice. And that's a lesson worth remembering. Rusty's death wasn't in vain. He became a symbol of the innocent victims of cruel people, and his story became a rallying cry for everyone who's ever been bullied by someone with power and no conscience. The orange tabby cat who came to us during a thunderstorm and left us in tragedy became something bigger than any of us imagined. He became proof that love is stronger than hate, that justice is possible even when it seems impossible, and that sometimes the smallest victims can create the biggest changes. Margaret Thompson killed my daughter's cat. But in the end she lost everything, her freedom, her reputation, and her power. Meanwhile, we found our strength, our voice, and our purpose. Justice arrived 3 minutes after my call to David. But it took 3 years to fully unfold. Some fights are worth fighting no matter how long they take.